Okay, I think we're going live this time. Seeing a little bit of issues. We good?
Hey, I think so.
Yep. All right, cool.
All right, so apparently two really attractive guys stole our podcast and went on an hour early.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened there, but we're actually here this time. So, hey, Mason.
Hey. Glad our doppelgangers are out of here, but how are you doing today?
Did you just call them double gangers?
Doppelgangers.
Huh?
Copies of ourselves, really.
Okay, because I was going to say, the way you were phrasing that earlier, that sounded like something we probably shouldn't be talking about on this podcast. That's Cameron's Tuesday night podcast. We got to put that conversation on.
Gotcha.
So, all right. So, welcome back to everybody again. Sorry about earlier. We've fixed all our technical difficulties. Mason screwing up typing. And so we got all that fixed. So we'll kind of breeze through everything again. But I'd say, we talked about shows earlier. Went on this weekend, Kalispell, Montana, and Gillette, Wyoming. Shows went really good. So we got shows again. So that's good news. And shows coming up this weekend. We got Erie Speedway with All-Star. Forsyth, Montana with Ed Beckley and the No Limit Monster Truck Tour. And Myrtle Beach Speedway with Toughest Monster Truck Tour. So we got shows coming up. But Mason, real quick, why don't you go over our contest we got going this weekend or this week?
Of course, yep. We still have our Father's Day giveaway contest going on to help kick off the 1,000 followers we have on our Facebook page now. Here's the image of the 3 items you can actually win here. And I should have had the post is actually live on our Facebook now. So let me make sure that this is all set and grow. Yep. So when you guys are done watching this episode here, make sure to go onto the page and read all the instructions. And just make sure to put your father's name in that post below. We'll keep this page and basically all the draws open until the 20th of June, and we'll be doing a live drawing there. And on our Sunday episode on the 21st on Father's Day, we'll find out who gets to win these cool 3 items thanks to Monster Truck Nader TV.
And like I said, it doesn't have to be your dad. It can be your dad, your brother, your cousin, your dog. You can nominate your mom. I don't care. This seems to be something cool to do, doing with Monster Truck Nader TV. So really appreciate to James for giving us the stuff to give away. But with the Father's Day, let's bring on our father and son this time. Mason, are they actually here?
Pretty sure they are.
Let's get them on here.
Your voice leader,
John Zimmer, part 1 and part 2. How are we, guys?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Monster Cast podcast, guys. I want to appreciate you guys coming on. First, let's talk about quarantine in North Kakalaki. How's that going?
It's good, man. It's definitely different in life. I'm sure everybody realizes that now. But for us, it's good down here. We love living in North Carolina. It really didn't. We live in a small town, so I don't know. I guess you'd say it didn't affect us much. It did work-wise and life-wise, but when I'm home, it's kind of vacation. So this has just been a really long one.
Wife getting tired of you being there yet?
Oh, God, yes. Yes. I've heard that more than once.
Yeah, mine keeps calling Jim asking when he's going back out so I can leave. Well, let's start with Junior here. I mean, we know about the big Zimmer history, but J2, let's talk about what you got going. You're a crew chief for a team now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's this year I started working like full time with Jamie Garner, helping him and Cole out during first quarter. And obviously, first quarter I ended abruptly this year, but I've learned a lot and just can't wait to get back at it.
Well, now you were with them last year for a while too, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was kind of shadowing a little bit. Like did work behind the scenes, but I was kind of like a third guy.
So, what's the end goal for you? And I mean, I know what it is, and how do you think this being a crew chief and actually being on the road is going to help you get to where you want to go?
I think if I keep up the good work, and hopefully sometime in the year or two, or if not ever, I wouldn't really mind. But hopefully, I get a seat at some point. But I couldn't ask for anything different where I'm at.
Well, now, so your dad being one of the top drivers in the business, I mean, he was behind the wheel of the Gravedigger and now Dragon and what he did in Amsoil, and you having the same exact name, not even just same last name, how hard do you think that's going to be to live up to?
That's going to be probably the biggest challenge ever. Like, no win is going to be harder than that. Like, just to even live up to what he's done and over the past 20 years doing this that's going to be a lot.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's really overrated, but I'm just saying for what people see.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now, J1, before we get to you, we always have a segment on here now with a gentleman by the name of Christopher Allen and his mom and dad, Jim and Carol, who give us our fun fact of the week about our guest. Oh, he always seems to know more about you guys than you do. So let's see what Christopher has to say about John Zimmer.
Hi, Monster Truck fans. Christopher Allen, the one and only Monster Truck Guru, is back again for another episode of Monster Truck Fact of the Week. This time about John Zimmer and his son John Jr. John started in the industry with the Slivko family, notably driving Backdraft. From there, he joined forces with Brandon Lagarde's Sudden Impact Racing team from Louisiana, gradually becoming well known in the industry as the signature driver of Amsoil Shock Therapy. After parting ways with SIR, John graduated to the big leagues of Monster Jam, where he would drive just about anything that was available, from ride trucks to Gravedigger. Recently, John has become known as one of the trademark drivers of Monster Jam's Dragon. As for John Jr., he has yet to drive trucks in front of a crowd, only in the field so far, but it's just a question of time before that changes. In spite of John's recent World Finals campaign with Dragon, he actually did make one appearance there in 2010 with the Amsoil Shock Therapy. In a loud and clear statement of his abilities and preference of a racer, he qualified for the top 8, skipping over the first round, and lasted as far as the quarterfinals. For awesome Monster Truck Show coverage all over the West, please check out Monster Trucking with Jim and Chris on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you enjoy these videos. Please come back Wednesday, and remember, Monster Trucks forever!
Do you even remember half of that?
Yeah, I really do. I've definitely forgotten most of my career, but I remember the big key points. But seeing Chris do that is so cool because I couldn't tell you the first time I did a show with him at it, but it's so awesome that him and his dad are still so involved.
Yeah, well, and I mean they've been doing this now with us for quite a few episodes, and it's something we're going to continue. It's cool to see some of the facts they've come up with for especially some of the guys that have been in it for a long time, because I don't remember shit. So he'll come up with crap that I never even thought of. But let's talk about starting with Slip Goes and how that worked and making the transition to Brandon Lagarde's sudden impact team.
So it really actually started with John Seesock. That's really where I got my start. I guess I messed around like going to different shows before John, but he actually gave me a start as a crew guy. And it was around 2000s, like 2001, maybe 2000. So I crewed the first quarter, got done after that, and truly thought that was it. Like I gave it a try. I wasn't making a lot of money. I had a new wife at home, a little guy eventually coming. And I really didn't think I'd ever do it. And then John's partner at the time, which a lot of people didn't know, was Andy Slifko. And he called me and was like, if you ever met Andy, he's just a good old boy from Pennsylvania. And he's like, phone call kind of went like, hey, man, you're welcome to go with me anytime. I'll pay you this much. I leave Thursday night and I'm home Sunday. So that's how that happened with Andy. I was with him crewing. I wouldn't change anything the way I started. I never asked to drive. I just worked on the trucks with him and his son. And he gave me the shot to drive. He literally threw me in his truck on a Sunday show. Literally, I woke up that morning. He told me I was driving, and I drove. And on the ride home, he didn't say two words for about 5 hours. And he looked at me and said, you did a great job. We're going to build a second truck. So that's how that happened. It was definitely different the way it happened. I guess, I didn't expect it. I guess I did good enough to run a second truck for him, but I got to give Slifko a big thank you to starting my career. But I didn't last long with him driving wise, only because once I started driving, I really wanted to push forward. And that's where the sudden impact racing team kind of came in. And it's a really big story on how that happened, but it was Alex Blackwell who actually got me tied into sudden impact racing. I went and drove sudden impact with Alex driving T-Max for a few shows, and it was just a different atmosphere, right? Andy was always with me, always looking over my shoulder, which wasn't bad. But with sudden impact, you just had their trucks. You took Brandon's trucks. You were told to go to these shows, run as hard as you wanted, but you had to do all the work. There was nobody with you. So that's how I started. And I believe I spent around 8 years with sudden impact racing. And it was definitely, that 8 years was an amazing part of my life.
Well, and so think back to them days driving the old white Buffalo and all that. I mean, that was some of the best times. I mean, shows I did with you, over the years and stuff. I mean, it was such a different atmosphere back then. I mean, summertime shows are so different than Monster Jam. Not bad, not worse, not, but just a whole different feeling. So talk about the way it was back in the day a little bit in the old white Buffalo.
The white Buffalo, for people watching, that was our big Kenworth motorhome. So we went down the road with a custom built motorhome, and we were way over length and way over width, whatever. But it was our home on wheels, and we did about 50 to 60 shows a year. And really for me, Cam, the difference was we were nonstop go. If those trucks could get a show, they would book them, whether I wanted to go home or not, which I always wanted to be home, but I always wanted to be with the trucks. And the summertime's like family. It didn't matter if you were with, this group of 8 trucks or 4 trucks, and the next weekend you were with a different group of trucks. You were always family, whether it was working on trucks together, going from show to show. I mean, gosh, look at the times. I remember going, I believe it was Kansas, when I called you out of nowhere. I'm literally driving to a show and I'm alone. I had no other driver for the Excalibur monster truck. And an hour from your house, I call you, hey, Cam, you want to come work this weekend? And that's how things went for us back then. And I loved it. Like, you worked your butt off. You didn't sleep hardly enough that you should have. You know, you might blow a motor up in California and not have a spare motor, and you're supposed to be in Kentucky on Thursday, and you made that stuff happen, right? So that was the big difference. And the other biggest difference was for Little John. Summertime, he could come with me. He could literally, I think you're 8 years old.
Yeah, 7 or 8.
Told his mom I wanted to take him on the road with me, and that is literally what we did. His mom stayed home, and he had to become a little man and live in the motorhome and try to help at the shows. And we did that right up to the end of the Sudden Impact. And I never really thought coming over to Monster Jam that would change, but it kind of does, right? You know, you go from what we were to the big corporation where he kind of can't really be involved with the trucks. Not that that's bad, but it was such a big change for him and I, that aspect.
Well, and one of the things that like a lot of people don't know, when you went to Feld and started driving for them, you did it differently. I mean, a lot of guys come in and they're fly-in drivers, and they fly in on Thursday or Friday and get in a rental car and drive to the show, do the show, and they leave. But for your first quite a few years there, up until recently, you stayed on the road. I mean, you were not the guy that was going to leave. You stayed right there. You worked on your truck. You worked on everybody else's truck. I mean, you kind of brought the independent life into Monster Jam a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few drivers at that time still doing that. I know like Morgan Kane, Cody, BJ. There was a few, but for me, that is 100% how I wanted it. I've always worked on my trucks, and I probably still will to some point until I stop this crazy sport, if I ever do stop this sport. I had great crew chiefs. Like when I was with Gravedigger, I had Christopher Fryman first, and then I had Carl Odom. I think he was with me the longest, and they were great crew guys, worked their butt off for me. But for me, it was peace of mind to be with my truck, to either be the one doing the work or making sure the work was done sort of how I want it, right, wrong, or indifferent, you know. But I liked it that way. I truly do miss that.
Well, that's when you get to have the fun. And when I say fun, the hanging out, it's on the weekends, you know, come Friday, practice day, it's kind of nonstop, go from that point on. It's Monday through Thursday, hanging out in the parking lot, trying to put shit back together and all that, you know, where you get to kind of hang out with the guys and go to dinner and have a drink and trade stupid stories about something else you did at another show and stuff like that. So going to being a fly-in, how much did you miss of that?
A lot. Like, don't get me wrong, flying in 2 shows is nice, but when you do it so long, and there's guys out there that I'm sure will agree with me a certain way. So I went from driving the rig, doing all the mechanics, driving the monster, repeat every minute. That's what I did. We rarely had a crew guy. So then I move into Feld, and I'm crew guy / driver of Gravedigger, my great dream truck. And I'm staying out still, but you're home quite a bit more, obviously. And then going directly to just fly in. I promise you, I was confused to come home on a Sunday and just be able to have nothing to do till Thursday. I truly felt like I needed to know what was going on. And my crew chiefs now, that over the last few years of the flying, they'll probably tell you that, yeah, I blow their phone up all week long because I should be there.
Well, you know, we had BJ and Lindsay on last week, and, you know, BJ even talked about that he said he didn't enjoy the flying in, going to the airports and dealing with all that, and he would have rather been in the rig running up and down the road every day.
Yeah, it's such a different lifestyle. It's truly 2 different lifestyles. I've been fortunate enough because of Monster Jam to be able to go overseas. I really do love that. I love going to Europe, and that's a different feel than even doing it the shows in the States. So that part of it I loved, but when we go into first quarter, it's still, I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th year of flying, driving that. You know, I see the rigs leave the Gravedigger shop or the Feld, Florida shop, and they're headed to their shows, and I'm just sitting at home going, I really probably should be behind the wheel of one of those rigs headed to the show. And people think you're crazy to say that, but that's what I did for so many years, and I did it because I loved it. I didn't become rich by any means. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, so Z2, I mean, you see that, and you're playing the independent life. Is the goal to go to Monster Jam and get that flying gig Dad has, or are you really digging the on the road rig, riding up and down the rig every day?
Well, at first, when I was right out of high school, I was like weighing the options between doing independent life to Monster Jam. Like, what would I try to go for? And the Monster Jam gig, just flying in, not touching the truck, that's like the ultimate goal for any driver. I don't care who you are. But after doing independent life for 2 years now, I don't think I'd want to do it any different, because you're around the trucks so much. You're around like the same group of guys, which is basically your family, because you all travel in the same rig. You all know each other so well. But other than that, I don't think I'd want to do the Monster Jam way. If I had a choice, I would just stay with independence.
Well, one of our big things on here is we like to do fan interaction, get people commenting, asking you guys questions. So, Mason, it's a good time. We got any good comments or questions for part 1 and part 2?
Yep, we got a few. Got some from Martin Husey saying, how's that 1,000-yard stare, Jimbo? A couple of those from other people, but let's go right into the questions at least. See, here's a good one. Here's one from Joshua Yoho saying, Little Z's growing up so fast. Seems like last year I was buying him a stroller. But the question is, what is a proud dad moment since he's been working on monster trucks?
Well, that's a good one.
Oof. Yeah, that is a good one. So a proud dad moment. Honestly, all of them. So some of it falls on the Garner family. So Jamie came to me 2 years ago and it was like, look, I just want little John to come on the road, clean the truck. I don't care if he works on it. Just come out. Live the monster life in a sense. Like he said, third guy. I'm like, yeah, that's up to little John. You know, Jamie said then, yeah, well, I look at him almost like another son. So let's do it. At that time, I knew he wanted to do what I do. And that's get right into it, fly. He kind of had heard it his whole life that he had been around the trucks. I mean, you know, when guys are just talking, they're like, when you're ready to drive, you know, or you're old enough to drive, I should say, get a hold of us. But that stuff really doesn't pan out. We all know that. So proud moment to get to it would be the fact that that first year he kind of did just that. He would work, but he'd really just kind of clean the truck and whatever. And then it was like a switch was flipped. He went and did a bunch of shows with Jamie over the summer, and I wasn't there. And Jamie would call me and be like, man, little John is like totally different. And of course, I'm thinking, oh, is this good or bad? And he would say, no, he's rolling with it. He's tiring the trucks up. Him and Zach, which is Jamie's son, they're doing everything together. This is awesome. So time went on, and Jamie's just like, look, I want little John to be with me. He's going to go crew again. So the proud moment would be in the time frame from last year, first quarter, to this year. There was a huge change. A lot of that.
Did we lose him?
I think he lagged out there for a second.
They said if they lagged out, they were having problems with their laptop, so they may have to switch to their phone. So we'll give them a second.
See.
Oh,
Back. All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, back. And the rest of it, I would play on the Feld crew guys. They really do treat the other guys great. Guys like Yoho, the one that asked the question, my crew guy Kenneth. I know when if I'm not around, he's an adult, but they'll take care of him. So proud dad moment would be the switch from a year ago to this year for me.
Well, and so let me build on that a smidge here real quick, because I'm in the same boat you are as far as our sons going out, but they're going with teams that we're not with. You know, unlike a lot of the teams that had their boys or daughters, whatever, and they put them in the truck and they travel with them. So how nervous were you for him to go out on his own without you? I mean, I've been that way from the very beginning. My son's never worked with me, on a regular basis.
Well, the first quarter, not bad because we had the same tour. So I was there every weekend. The more so nervous wise is I'm around the trucks a lot. So he knows how I am with trucks. So I don't care who you are. I'm a flying driver. And if something's broken, it needs to be fixed, I'm probably going to jump on it. And he'll say things to me like, gosh, it's so much different when you're around. So I was nervous like him going to the summer shows and all that, but more nervous to see how he'd do, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's harder for him if I'm right next to him trying to work. Not so much now. I don't know if he'd agree or not.
Sometimes.
Now he seems to just do things like because he's learned the truck so much more.
Oh, my son will be the first person to tell you I'm the biggest asshole to work with. So he's all for working in other teams and me not being there.
Yeah, and it's hard for me because like with him, I see him working on the trucks and he wants to do good with the trucks, but we're from a different school. If you take a 4-second break, I'm confused on why you're taking that 4-second break.
Put your damn phone down.
Right.
What else you got, Mason?
All right, bringing it down to J2 here, we have one from Zach Steele asking, I want to know how it feels for Jer to be unbeatable in rigs of rods.
I knew you were going to ask that, Zach. We were just talking like an hour ago. It's just a video game, man. I mean, anybody can be good at it, but I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm unbeatable. It's just a video game.
A video game that I cannot play, just for the record.
And I like how he's playing it all cool, but I've actually watched one of those with his interview, and he was into it, so he can talk all he wants about it ain't no big deal, but he was pimping the hell out of it.
Got it. I mean, because of the quarantine, that's what I was doing. I'd be He has where we live, we have a separate little house that he it's basically like game room, trophy room, whatever you want to call it. So I'd be texting him from the house every night during this big quarantine stuff going, hey, you racing tonight? Because I needed some monster truck action.
Yeah. Why do you think I started this podcast?
Yeah, right.
And did a dumbass game show that lasted a week, took forever, and wore me out.
The intro for that was pretty cool, though.
That was all Mason.
Bring it back to you guys now. We have one from Christopher Allen asking any pre-race rituals you guys like to do before a show.
Any pre-race rituals? No, I really don't. When I was in Digger, I started just really listening to music like right before an intro, but I don't know. I've kind of stopped. I really don't have one. I don't. I don't know. You got anything that you do before a show, crew wise?
Run around like a chicken with my head cut off because thinking of stuff I didn't check or stuff I did check, but I'm checking it 3 more times.
Mine is walk away.
That's your ritual. Okay, time to go.
Yeah, mine's walk away because I ain't got time to fix it now. So, like Captain Ron says, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen out there. Let her go.
This year, the best ritual I had was saying a prayer with my crew chief, hoping that my truck would make it through the night because it was a rough year.
What about doing the roar, the dragon roar?
Those were the good years of Dragon. That's the only time that you got a roar.
What else you got? Pumpkin?
One from Austin Mitten saying, Big Z, if my geometry is wrong, will it cause me to flip in corners?
Dang it, Austin. I think I told you in Toronto one time about the geometry.
Geometry, damn it.
It will roll you over every time.
So when the geometry's off. So what exactly do you have a number that the geometry needs to be at?
0.
Oh, okay. So you got to set geometry to 0.
Yeah.
All right. We have one from Dana Lynn saying, "Got any cake? #memories." That ring any bells with you or no?
Not at all.
No.
Let's just say, not at the moment.
Yeah. All right, we'll bring it back to some of our more of our fan questions here. We have one from Cameron Becker saying, "John, what you did for me in Las Vegas is still the best thing I've ever experienced, and I can't thank you enough."
Can we talk about this on the air?
Yeah.
Okay. Getting weird.
No, it's just one of those moments. Cameron's a big fan of the sport, a big fan of Dragon Ice. So I just hooked him up with something that I thought he would enjoy for the rest of his life. Just something to do with Dragon. And the cool thing with what we do is we get to meet a ton of people. And a lot of times we're busy or maybe signing autographs kind of fast and trying to touch base with fans, but I've always made sure to keep my eyes or ears or feelings open to fans, certain fans. He just happened to be one that I kind of remembered coming to the shows and the World Finals. And so, yeah, that's what that one is. I know what he means. So you're welcome, bud.
Somebody got a flamethrower.
If they did, it didn't work.
Oh, so we got Darren's.
No, Darren got the one that works.
Man. We have one from Hope Jarek asking, "Favorite Cretan / Jarek?" Jarek.
Well, considering she hinted the slash part, tell her, let's see, there's too many of them to have favorites because one of them will be mad.
And they're multiplying, so that ain't helping.
Yeah, I was going to say, and now there's a baby involved.
Yeah. So I'd say
Riot. Yeah,
Riot's
that's my favorite. Nothing to say. Yeah.
quietest one of the bunch.
Right. We have one from Mackenzie Ray asking, "John, out of all the trucks you've driven, which one is your absolute favorite?"
Oof.
It obviously ate the Dragon this year.
I would say half the trucks definitely have some sort of meaning in my career. Some were one-offs or an encore or whatever. Gravedigger obviously would be one. People are always going to be like, well, of course Gravedigger. But for me, it is, of course, Gravedigger. It was 98, I believe, when I met Dennis Anderson, and it was actually on my honeymoon. So, and I met him right here in North Carolina. So when I moved here to literally drive Gravedigger, that was like, you know, that little kid saying, wow, that's your dream come true type thing. So that truck's a blast to drive because of the heritage that goes with it. Dragon is actually one of my top favorites, but for me, drivability, good truck, AMSOIL shock therapy for sure.
That truck definitely worked.
Yeah, that was one of the only trucks that we did brand new from Patrick Enterprises. AMSOIL and Brandon with Sudden Impact, they really stepped up on that truck. And that was really the only truck that was mine. I mean, we assembled it and that was my truck. No one else drove it. And it did. It just worked really well. And the AMSOIL, that was a big part of my career. That's kind of when I really took off, I guess. So the AMSOIL and the shock therapy name will always stick with me, have a place in my heart for sure.
Well, now talk about the pressure difference between, so you go from AMSOIL, which is a highly sponsored truck. I mean, it's a title sponsor type deal, to going to Gravedigger, who has, of course, the legacy of an entire generation, to now Dragon, that you kind of, I mean, Scott Lidicote did really well in, but you kind of taken over from that one. I mean, what's the pressure difference in those three trucks, those three names?
This will sound crazy. Gravedigger would be the least of the three pressures for me because when I got in Digger, it changed my mindset. So literally as soon as I would hear the intro to Gravedigger, every show I ever did, something switches in your brain, the way you drive that truck. So that would be the least pressure in my eyes because I could literally just go with one goal, and that was to burn that thing down, drive as hard as I could, no matter where I was, and no matter what happened. I knew as long as it was spectacular, the Gravedigger fans were behind me. So the pressure on that one, as crazy as it sounds, wasn't as high. Shock Therapy, I'd put a lot of pressure on myself when we were doing a lot of the Monster Jam and some of the big summer shows because I wanted to succeed. At that point in my career for Amsoil. And then with Dragon, I think I do that one. I think that one's probably the highest. It's not necessarily pressure, more stress. It's an expensive body. I've had good luck with the name. I've won a lot of shows last year with it as Dragon Ice. It's a really cool truck for the fans. So you don't want to let the fans down. But in turn, you're trying to find that edge of how to drive it, when to drive it a certain way, if that makes any sense.
Good. What else
Bringing
you got?
it back to one question, actually, it's more of a story here, actually, almost from Frank Patelli saying, John, they haven't had a show at Glen Falls and Civic Center since you broke the floor in Shock Therapy. Always knew you'd become a Gravedigger driver since then. You both are awesome people.
That's awesome.
That's funny. I can reiterate that show if you'd like to know what he means.
Yeah, let's hear what you got.
So Little John was there.
I was?
Yep. That's Glens Falls, New York is not far from where I'm from in Vermont. It was the second show I drove for RB Moeller. Or no, I would have had Shock Therapy, I guess. Yeah, Shock Therapy. Anyway, someone made a comment about smacking the tailgate on the fifth car in a wheelie contest and asked me why I hadn't done it the night before. So I'm not sure how they meant it, as in that I couldn't do it. But I made sure that I would smack the tailgate on while I was hoping the fifth car. But I believe it smacked the tailgate on the concrete, which in turn put the frame rails in the concrete. Either way, I won the bet.
Whoops. You know what? Things like that are going to happen.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it wasn't a bad deal, but I remember it very well.
What else you got?
From Levi Schoen not doing the JTU and Hooter question, even though it was brought up earlier. We have one instead saying, what is your biggest win of your career? Anaheim 09. Also, Hooters or JT Smiths, you know the ones I'm talking about.
Jesus Christ.
He included it in the question, and I didn't read it until like after it was already up there. So yeah, snuck a quick one on me there.
I'm going to punch him right in the throat.
Being slick, huh?
Well, you got to go with JT Smith's. It's better food, and it's right next to the hotel. I mean, that's pretty.
That's his favorite question every damn episode.
Well, who's going to walk that quarter mile to Hooters when he can go across the street for better food?
Those who can't afford a $35 hamburger.
Well, you got a point.
I mean,
What was the real question? Which win?
Which
what's
was
your
your
biggest
biggest win of your career?
Biggest win.
In Anaheim, he's asking, right?
No,
Anaheim.
he was asking if you won in Anaheim in 09, if that was it, or if there's another win that was bigger.
Oh gosh, that'd be a hard one. I don't know, to be honest with you. That one, I don't know that it would be biggest. It might be. There was a lot of stuff that weekend. If people look it up and see the time frame of that win, I actually was supposed to be off that weekend, and we hauled butt from Detroit on a Wednesday night to get to that show. And we won that show, and something else also happened that night in the sport. And so yeah, I don't know biggest win, but one that I'll never forget that one. Yeah, I think that was my first stadium win.
That's probably about the time you won my heart.
Yeah, it was that time frame.
Yeah, right about there somewhere.
Bring it back to a question for Little Z here. We have one from Joshua Yoho again saying, what are you going to do to better yourself with the mechanics of a monster truck?
Quit.
Just keep doing the same thing over and over until you get faster at it, less mess ups, because that's kind of where I'm at right now. Because, like he said earlier, when me and him are working together, it's in my eyes he is way faster than I am, just because of the years. Like he's been doing this for 20 years, and I maybe have 2, if that. But just keep doing the same stuff over and over, and try to get speed with it.
Learn your way, young man. Learn your way.
Yeah, it's funny, and Cam, you can testify to this. It's like everything I've ever learned in this sport, there's basically 2 ways. Someone that's really good and been around a long time showed you it, and that's where you learned it, or you broke it, blew it up, crashed it, and had to fix it yourself to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, or screwed it up, put it together, it broke, get yelled at for screwing it up, and then you got to fix it again.
Yeah, it's the school of hard knocks is the way you learn them, and he's learned it.
Yeah, when I started, there was no training program. It was hurry up.
That's right. Get it done.
And make it perfect.
Roll bearings in the middle of the night in the dirt parking lot.
The tarp wrapped around the truck.
That's right.
And have chicken and a biscuit.
All right, bringing it to a question for you two guys now. It's one from Adam Miller asking, where do you see the sport going in 5 to 10 years, show and or truck technology-wise?
Well, I'll let him go first. He's younger generation, so let's see what his thoughts are 5 to 10 years.
Why do I gotta go first? I don't know. With the technology thing, that sounds like a great question for old Marty with that big book that he just wrote. But I have no idea, because trucks are right now, they're probably the best they'll ever be, unless you find some shock that'll take 100 feet of air instead of 40. But I have no idea.
Yeah, I would agree with John. There's always a room for advancements. There's tons of room, but I don't know where it'll be in 5 or 10 years. Right now, the trucks are so strong. You can pretty much aftermarket buy every part now, which 10 years ago you couldn't, but now you can. As far as tracks, who knows what they'll be in 5 or 10 years. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have thought the biggest thing or only thing we'd be hitting is vans and buses, and now we hit massive dirt obstacles and logs and tires. And so I really don't know. I can't, and I don't personally see a place. Like, I can't tell you this is where I'd like it to be in 5 or 10 years. I just roll with it, man. Whatever it changes to, I'll change with it.
Only thing I can see now is I saw the transition from everybody trying to be lighter to everybody going heavier, getting heavier dutier to make them last. So I see now the people trying to figure out how we can get the strength and the durability out of them and start taking the weight back out of them.
Yeah, I would agree. The trucks, I know probably Garner's stuff's heavy. I'm not sure about Jimmy's. I know Kohler's stuff is heavy. It's just like you said that, the late 90s, early 2000s, it was let's be lightweight. And then everything just broke. And now, I mean, Kohler's proof, like, he doesn't care about weight. And I know his truck's heavy, but look at what he does. And that thing takes it. So, yeah, I think finding a happy medium, getting them back down on the weight.
Yeah, the days of 10,000-pound monster truck are gone.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Have one from Jim Sears for the both of you guys again, I assume, asking which one of you guys are better on a skateboard.
That's a good question, Jim. I don't know.
Maybe back when you were my age, definitely you.
Yeah, if we'd go back to when Jim is a buddy of mine from high school that just acts that, and I've only ran into him maybe 5 to 10 times since we've been out of high school. And yeah, I grew up skateboarding, so I would say I was way better when I was young, but as of right now, no, he's probably better.
All right. One from Blake Thompson saying, Little John, what is the easiest body to patch up with duct tape?
Any of the garbage truck, especially overboard, that thing all duct tape. I don't do fiberglass.
That's
not
right there.
We have one from Tim Mente asking, Big John, who is the driver that most challenges you? And who's the most underrated driver in your opinion out there?
Ooh. Challenges me. I really don't look at any drivers that way. Like, actually, you know what? Yes, Neil Elliott. That would be the challenge. And it's not the challenge to try to go beat him. It's the challenge to try to not let the thought of Neil Elliott get in my head. Like, there are so many amazing drivers that can straight kick my butt, right? I might win a race, they'll win a race. But for some reason, I've always looked up to Neil Elliott, whether it was the fact that he comes from Tom Mentz, which those guys are great, hardworking, ex-independents. Like, Neil could throw parts with the best of them right now as far as spinning a wrench. But his driving style, I've always loved Neil's driving style, and he's so good at it. So I think challenge would be Neil Elliott because he will get in my head. I mean, All-Star last year, he beat me, and then I watch a video, and he goes around the whole top turn on 3 wheels. And I'm like, what the heck? How did he win? Like, I should have won. Oh, wait, yeah, it was Neil. Underrated drivers, there's tons. There really is. I think Jamie Garner gets overlooked a lot. If you sit down and watch his freestyles and even his 2-wheel, he goes really big. Man, there's a bunch that would be underrated. Steven Thompson, and even though Tim asked that question, I was actually thinking about this earlier today, and I always liked when I got a chance to run with Steven because Steven is really good at driving and not totally mommicking a truck. I also liked running with Matt Cody before he went to do the triple threat thing with Waters. They're kind of like real quiet guys, just kind of show up, work on their trucks, but they're really good behind the wheel.
Well, speaking of behind the wheel real quick, I want to get to rental car stories.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man.
You know, we always share rental car stories, and one of my favorite stories I've heard, and I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but somebody in a minivan broke a motor mount once. And I've heard this story told 50 times, but I've never heard who it was, and I'm curious if you know who it was.
I don't know who it was at all, but I've heard the same story that when they would put it in the gear, it would just make this massive bang because the motor would slap the firewall. But I don't know who it was at all.
So it's not a fake story, at least. So that makes me feel better.
I think it's a real story.
But no, it's aside from that, though, we always do ask like a favorite road story. I mean, let's think back and, you know, whether it was in the White Buffalo or when you've been with Feld. I mean, what's just a good road story, whether it was something dumb happened when traveling to a show or once you were there. Just a funny one.
There's a bunch. You want me to embarrass you?
Oh, my. I would rather not.
I could embarrass him with a good one. I'll give you 2 because he was so young. First one would be there was tons, but this was funny. We were doing a tour of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia with Dominator, Easy Rider, our 2 trucks, maybe a Bigfoot. But we were doing basically running one night, load, go to the next event.
Well, my brother was with you on that too, wasn't he?
That was the West Coast. We did the West Coast.
Okay.
This was East. But anyway, we had left this little speedway in Prince Edward Island, and we were hauling butt to northern New Brunswick. And if you ever been out there, there's nothing out there. Like if you see an exit sign for a town and you need something, you better take it because you're not going to find anything. Well, I love Tim Hortons coffee. So I saw a sign for Tim Hortons coffee. I'm leading in my rig. We pull off. The other 2 rigs pull off with me. It's a little town, no place for a rig. We just stop in the road. No big deal. Get our coffee, get back in. And as we take off, I notice a cop following me. I'm like, huh. So I pull into the only grocery store in this town to do a U-turn. And the other 2 rigs actually see the cop and are like, well, we'll just keep going. We'll do a U-turn somewhere else. So the cop runs up to my window and literally just totally cusses me out top to bottom about parking on the side of his road to get a coffee and how dangerous it is. And I'm like, I'm going to jail over a coffee, you know? He says, can you radio your buddies in the rigs? And I said, no, we don't have radios. Well, call them on their phones. I said, well, I don't get cell service. We're in Canada. And by this time, both rigs, the other rigs had already hit the highway and started going again. And the cop literally just says, okay, don't do it again, and runs to his car. I'm like, well, that was weird. I'm not kidding you. To make this story shorter, he chased each rig down. So it took him about a half hour to get to the last rig, which was now 80 miles away, to tell them all not to stop in their town and park on the side of the road to get coffee. And all of us just thought, it's like, man, that's a rough life when you have nothing to do but chase us down to tell us that. And then the other one was with him when he was young, so hopefully it doesn't super embarrass him. The motorhome, the AC never worked.
Oh, Jesus.
So we're going down the road. It was the first year he's with us, so he's like 8 years old. I've got all the windows down. He has the sliding window open. And I don't remember who, John Killinger was with us. And John looks in the passenger mirror and just starts laughing. I said, what's so funny? He's like, well, apparently it's hot in the back. I said, why? He goes, look out the mirror. And I look, and he is mooning every car going by because he has his butt out the window of the motorhome because he's so hot. But he doesn't even realize that his shorts are pulled down. So I have to have Killinger go to the back and say, Little John, don't moon everyone. So that was a pretty good one. He probably doesn't even remember it, but it made us laugh.
Well, John, do you remember your ass hanging out of the rig going down the interstate?
I remember playing PlayStation 2 back then, but I don't remember that.
Don't worry, the therapist will get it out of you.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's repressed memory right there is what that is.
Yep.
Mason, you got a couple more before we let these gentlemen go?
Yep, got a few last good ones here. One from Susan Woolley saying, please tell John that I think Neil's the man, but that he's never given up his hat.
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you, Susan. And I don't know I think I have a little more hair than Neil. That's probably why he won't give up his hat. I love you, buddy, but mine's gray.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that too loud.
Have one from Ace Purdue saying, ask them if they know that you're a Ford guy at heart.
Oh, man.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I had a Ford pulling truck. I was Ford through and through. And then as life went on and you get married and have kids, and you realize that if the key turns and starts the vehicle, that's a good vehicle.
Well, you know, in the 70s, there was a difference between Ford and Chevy and Dodge. There was, and I was a Ford guy. In 2020, they're all made in Japan. Only difference is the badge on the grill.
True.
We have one from Stephen Lashinki. I think I spelled that last name right. Do you miss driving the old
Scheisky?
Scheisky? Yeah. Do you miss driving the old Dragon body compared to the new Dragon body?
Heck no, Steven. So Steven is my crew chief. Or what was my crew chief. So when it comes to Dragon, I've had Kenneth Stalin first year, then Steven, and then back to Kenneth. So those guys know me really well. They both have done awesome on my truck for me. Both great friends. But Steven, you know the dang answer. I hated that first body. I couldn't see out of it whatsoever. The new one you can see pretty good out of, unless they forget to take the spikes off the middle, the first couple rows.
All right, going on to our last two here. We have one from Joshua Yoho again, asking who is faster racing go-karts?
Unfair question.
I think I got him on that one. I'll take that.
Oh.
He just laid that one right out there. He didn't even try to sugarcoat it.
Well, look, he's actually a little bit taller than I am and weighs about, 70 pounds less. So that's why he's faster. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Them go-karts are not good for drag.
No.
All right, and ending it off right here, we have one from Blake Thompson saying, "Ho, Jimble, can I get a hey, man?"
Hey, man.
Oh, okay.
That must be Riggs and Rod's talk.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell just happened.
That
Well,
was something real cool, but it is what it is.
Yep.
yeah, fail. All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on. We wanted to have you on a couple months ago, but then we decided to do a dumb game show and postponed it. But I really appreciate both of you coming on. Little John, keep spinning wrenches. Eventually, you'll be another one of these asshole drivers.
Definitely.
But Pookie, dude, I can't wait to see you at a show again. It's time to have a double. And we will see you guys down the road shortly, and I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight.
Yeah, no problem, man. Just got to thank my wife, and we kind of blew through so many parts of my career through this, but one thing's for certain, that my wife and my daughter, who not many people get to know about, they're the reason why I've done this 20 years. They take care of everything at home and kick me out on the road, and they don't mind it, and they don't mind him doing it. So I just got to say thank you to both of them for always allowing that with me. And
yeah, definitely. If it wasn't for Jamie Garner, probably working some boring 9 to 5 somewhere right now, or just sitting at home trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. But definitely.
You mean making a decent living and having a future?
Maybe. Or stuck in school for 4 years or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's a great show you guys got, and we'll try to push it more for you. It's definitely fun. Yeah,
well, I appreciate it. We will definitely have you guys on again. And J2, you ever get a show we get to drive, let us know so we can follow it. Make sure we keep up on how you're doing.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right. Well, let's why don't you do our little sponsor talk there, Mr. Mason?
Of course. Again, we'd like to thank Spur Hot Sauce again for their amazing hot sauce, mixing the Southwest and Southeast flavors. Make sure to follow them on Instagram and on Facebook. It's Spur Hot Sauce, and make sure to tell them that MonsterCast sent you. And of course, we still have Monster Truckinator TV, the place to go on for Facebook for all things new and old monster trucks. Again, like to thank them for all the stuff they donated for the giveaway. We'll be having, again, our giveaway right here with this awesome picture, this amazing BKT t-shirt, and the Orlando 2020 World Finals truck. Make sure to go onto that post there, and we will be announcing our winner on our Father's Day episode, and more giveaways to come.
Yep, and we got hopefully a big giveaway coming up here. I would say probably about a month. Something we're working on, gonna be pretty cool. But thanks everybody for watching. We apologize for the little hiccup earlier. Make sure you join us Wednesday night, where we will actually have Little John's teammate there, Cole Vernard of Black Pearl. So that will be at, hey Mason, are you listening?
Yes, I have a piece of paper and pen ready to go. Let's do this.
That will be Wednesday night
Mhm.
at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, once again, thanks everybody for watching. Follow us, our stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and MonsterCast at YouTube. And we will see you guys Wednesday night.